our
That many people all love it. Yeah,
I want to pin Nancy so that she can introduce herself and tell her story and her gifts and her practice. And now she has the floor. Nancy, would you take it away?
Hi, thank you so much for having me tonight. I'm grateful to be here. My name's Nancy Clasby, and I am very happy to be here. I have three children. I made this up, I think, in 2016, so my kids are all older now. But I raised three wonderful kids, and I've been a healer and a meditation teacher since 1998. Can you all hear me?
I think we could get better if you spoke closer to the microphone.
Okay, I'll speak a little louder. Okay. Um, I've been a healer and meditation teacher since 1998. Is that better, Ben?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Or Dick? Okay. I'm a meditation workshop leader, and I've been a member of the Greater Boston Ions since 2012. I did have a wonderful opportunity to go to Arizona and a few other places to share my story and teach meditation. And I've also recorded healing meditations, and I wrote a book in 2016 called The Reluctant Mystic Autobiography of an Awakening. So that's me before COVID, and this is me after COVID. I'm now 68 years old. So this happened to me around my 30th birthday. So, what I'd like to tell you about tonight is about Kundalini. So Kundalini is, and I noticed that you used the chakras in your introduction, um, and it is a term from the yoga tradition for the power of the divine. And every spiritual tradition has its name for Kundalini. So Kundalini is a term from the yoga tradition for the power of the divine. She is the latent female energy believed to be coiled at the base of the spine. So at the very bottom of the first chakra, um, for me, what happened was I could feel that there were three channels. One was coming up the front, which is where we have traditionally the seven chakras, but actually there are energy centers all over our bodies. On either side of the main channel, which they call the Sushumna, is the Ida and the Pingala, and they characterize those as two snakes that crisscross around and weave around that main channel. And when they get to the very top, they pierce open the crown chakra. So Kundalini is, again, it's from the yogic tradition, but I think every tradition has their own language around it. I started practicing yoga when I was 18, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But because of that, I think that even though I was born Jewish and raised in a Jewish family and Jewish culture, I really feel more akin to what I've learned in the Hindu traditions. So they call Kundalini the creator of all creation. She's called the face of God. And remember, in Judaism, they say we can't see the face of God. So what we see is this incredible light. Um, the face of God. She's the ultimate goal of all yogis. Now, yoga means to connect, it means oneness. So when you're yoking something, you're connecting it, and it connects all living creatures in the world. Um, she is also the awakened mind and the transcendent vision of all saints and sages. And by knowing her, all is known and life is saturated with bliss, which they call Ananda bliss. So you might know about some of the yogis, but the great yogis always have Ananda at the end of their name, Yogananda, Satchitananda, and Ananda means bliss. And they combine the word bliss with being connected to that energy source that I believe tonight you called the creator. The Eastern traditions revere Kundalini as the great mother who gives birth to all. When our minds are saturated with her, we have a direct experience of our connection to all living creatures in the universe. And I will say this several times tonight. The biggest thing that I learned when I was out of my body that day was that we are all one, that we're connected to everything. We're connected to the mountains and the oceans and the trees and the birds and the fish, everything. Some of you might be familiar with some of the different meditations that call all parts of creation together. The Metta meditation, which is a meditation that starts with yourself and then spreads out further, 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 further. There's definitely meditations that go that come from indigenous groups of people that were walked all over the world, and they call all of the traditions, all of everything that lives on the earth and around the earth and in the universe, and it calls us all to one. So every spiritual tradition has a name for her. Christians call her the Holy Spirit. Jews call her Shekhinah. Qi is the word used by the Chinese culture describing the life force energy that permeates the universe. Bodhicitta in Buddhism is the mind that knows empathy and compassion for the benefit of all beings. Spiritual seekers of all faiths, shamans, yogis, monks, priests, nuns, and many more asked to be shown the way to her. I love that they used a female pronoun too for her, which doesn't happen here in the United States very often. She will appear to everyone in the shape that is comforting to the individual. As a Jew, she appeared to me as an incredible, all-encompassing light. I couldn't look at her straight on. So I've learned over the years and through readings that this energy source is so brilliant that it's going to appear to you in the form that you feel the most comfortable. So if you believe in Jesus, Jesus is going to show up. If you believe in a, a specific saint, maybe that saint will show up. If it's Buddhist, you'll see Buddha. So it never wants to scare any of us. So it just shows up in the way that will feel the most comfortable to us. So for me, it was this brilliant light. Kundalini is often used to refer to the power of the divine present in each person. We all have two aspects of energy. The first one contains the physical world around us and inside of us, representing the body, the mind, and the ego with all its wants and needs. This aspect of energy keeps us separate. The second aspect of energy is believed to sit coiled at the base of our spines as two snakes, waiting to unfurl and rise up through the body, opening energy centers along the way and culminating in the rising out of the top of the head to connect the individual to everything that is. Kundalini awakening is the most profound, important event in a long life of a soul. So let's see, I'm going to change. Next one. There she is. So the Kundalini can arise in different ways in different people. And here are a few of the different ways that she may arise. In a ritual specifically designed for the transmittal of power, like the initiation ceremonies or as a baptism was once meant to be, through various yogic practices developed over thousands of years, prayer, devotional practices, selflessly serving others, chanting, meditation, rituals, mantras, drumming. I know that in India, if you go to see a specific teacher, that they can transmit that automatically. It's called Shaktipat. And I don't know if any of you have ever received that, but and I have not. But it is supposed to be a beautiful, amazing experience. Some other ways to awaken the Kundalini can be precipitated by a near-death experience, trauma, pain, deep sorrow, one-pointed concentration, as in breathing. In the dream state given through initiation from a wise being, it's even possible for one to have been initiated in a past life and have signs of awakened Kundalini in this life without any recollection of the past life transmission. So when this happened to me, of course, I had no language for months and months. I didn't eat or sleep for 3 months afterwards because I was being fed with this energy that we call prana. It was just pouring through me and it was feeding me. And I was wide awake and absorbing everything, living in one moment at a time, completely in what they would call a meditative state. Um, Though Kundalini awakening is the greatest prize on the spiritual quest, the blessed soul receiving the grace is on their way to the realization of the highest process. But this is not without peril. When Kundalini rises, it is with the intention to bring the body and mind into fully expanded consciousness. The process can be ecstatic bliss, as well as have periods of extreme distress that can mimic psychiatric disorders. Kundalini can stir up latent diseases of the body as well as psychological disturbances. So it's not something to be taken lightly. And I invariably get asked from audiences, is it a good thing to pursue Kundalini? And my answer would be to say to you, no, it's not. It's not something that we choose to pursue, although I know some people do, but it comes with a lot of ramifications. I had one client that used to come to see me, and he had a Kundalini rising, and it got stuck in his lower chakras, and he wound up giving all of his money away. He left his family, his children, and he was lying on the floor of a friend's apartment, staring at the ceiling for years. He could not move. So there are definitely, unless you are being guided, and I'll explain what happened to me in a little bit, but unless you're being guided through it, or I'm not really sure how it happened that I came out so unscathed by it. And it is a blissful experience. It was the most important experience in my life, but I couldn't have stopped it. I didn't choose it. It chose me, and or I had chosen it. What they explained to me was that it had been chosen. I had been working towards it in other lifetimes and had died before I had had a full awakening. So let's see what else we have here. Um, so here's what I was trying to explain to you before. I'm not sure if you can all see it.
We
Can you
can
see
see it.
the visuals? Oh, okay. Okay. I want to make sure I'm not in the way. So, some of the symptoms of a Kundalini awakening. All right. So, here are some of the symptoms that can happen when somebody has an awakening: sweating, trembling, sensations of heat and cold, rushes of energy through the body or up and down the spine. I'm going to stop at that one because I did have that. 6 weeks before I had that full awakening, my body started shaking involuntarily at different times and I could not control it. I didn't know what it was. It felt good. I later found out that they call it a body orgasm, where the whole body is vibrating. The whole universe, as far as I could see and tell and know, is vibrating. Everything works in vibration. So when you actually have a sexual orgasm, it's like a miniature version of the expansion and the contraction that we see in a much more expanded way. Like right now, in the eastern part of the United States, I live up in Massachusetts, everything is involuting and it's coming inward. And in the spring, everything will evolute. Again, it'll start to expand. So our bodies, the world around us, Mother Nature shows it to us all the time. The night sky, the stars come and go. Everything waxes and wanes. The ocean, the tides come in and out. And so this is another example of that. The way the body vibrates in and out. And this time it was a full body vibration. Um, Fear, anxiety, weight loss or gain, food cravings. I did lose some weight, but I literally didn't eat or drink anything for 3 months and I didn't sleep. And I think I lost maybe 10 pounds. Body movements and yoga postures happening spontaneously during meditation, retention of breath and other changes in breathing patterns, mantras and sounds arising from within, distortions of time and space. That was a big one. Not time so much, but when I came back, the physical world had melted. So it felt like I could put my hands through walls, and there was no physical experience of the world. The whole physical world around me had melted away, and there was just this incredible light and this knowing of oneness, profound stillness and peace, healings, habits, or addictions dropping away, inspired creativity, states of boundless ecstasy and love arising for no apparent reason. Shifts in values, attitudes, and behavior may have a major impact on relationships. At that point, I was the mother of three young children, 3, 6, and 9, and they were wonderful. I couldn't explain anything to them, but they just knew what it was. So it wasn't hard for me in my relationships. My husband was really great about it. Of course, I didn't tell anyone for a very long time, for months and months. Kundalini opens the doors of perception to vast realms of consciousness. Your meditations may include visions, colors, sounds, infinite expanses of utter stillness throbbing with an absolute fullness of being. Tears of joy may run down your face as love beyond measure courses through your body. Now, the mystics call that knowing. We just know it. We don't have to think about it. We don't have to create it. We don't have to push or pull. We're just right there in the middle of acceptance. Kundalini's gifts are incomparable, and after receiving them, no one is ever the same. So I definitely had tears, what I call tears of knowing. And they were joy, they were all of the emotions that you can possibly imagine, and yet they were magnified a million times, the emotional states that I could hear and see and know and feel. So in 1996, I had an out-of-body experience that left me with an understanding of the universe and how we are all bound by unconditional love. Of course, one of my first questions was, why did that happen to me? I was a mother of 3 young children. I was a homemaker, a housewife. Um, I had taken a break from working to raise my 3 kids. I had been a preschool teacher, a special ed teacher with kids that were in wheelchairs and had feeding tubes. And I had to do a lot of intuiting. And I can see now how that was a perfect job for me to get to later states of being able to give back and serve. Um, but what I finally found out later on was that, like I said before, that it was lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes that I had been practicing for this experience. So I think a bunch of you will probably already know the difference between a medium, a channel, a psychic, and a mystic. But I think it's important for me to explain that a medium, a channel, and a psychic and a mystic are not the same, but are not necessarily mutually exclusive. A medium is someone who has chosen to be the medium between the living and souls who have passed on to give comfort and closure to the living. A channel is someone who allows the spirit to merge with them, thus allowing the spirit to speak through them. A psychic is someone who uses extrasensory perception to identify information hidden from our 5 senses. A mystic is someone who has a direct experience of creation and the interconnectedness of all life forms. A mystic often receives the gifts of a medium, a channel, or a psychic, but not always. A mystic may receive the gifts that sound magical, but the main and most important message is always that of a deep connection to their creator and thus every other living creature in the universe. In other words, what I do to myself, I do to you, and what you do to yourself, you do to me. So there's that constant interchange of energy. Oh, here I am with my kids when they were younger and when they were a little bit older. And I loved being a mother. In 1996, I had an out of body experience that left me with an understanding of the universe and how we're all bound by unconditional love. This in turn led to my becoming a healer, and I have since helped hundreds and hundreds of people deal with cancer and other life-threatening diseases. In that moment, I was given the gift of grace and internal spiritual awareness of generosity, compassion, forgiveness, and joy that transcended anything I had ever felt before. It was given to me generously and with great loving kindness. I had no idea what was to come, but I felt an overwhelming responsibility to do something with this gift. I kept thinking, why me? What did I do to deserve this? How could I share with others what I had been given so freely? Um, and that was something that I asked myself over and over again. Why would this happen to me? I'm at home. I'm taking care of three little kids and doing lots and lots of laundry and changing diapers. And anyone that's been a mother or a father knows what that's like. It's an all-consuming experience. And there I am doing that. And all of a sudden I got just this huge hit of energy. It was like an energy burst into my body. So I will explain a little bit about what happened to me.
Shaking.
Oh, are you okay? No, all set. But before I do, I want to just read the first little bit of my book. It's just two little paragraphs. I went to sleep one night and had the following dream. My life was a book. Each page was a full 24 hours. I started to read through the book one page at a time, and all of a sudden, a huge gust of wind came up from behind me and blew all the pages over, and I was left looking at the very end of the story. My story had ended, and I didn't have a chance to read the whole book. I realized in that moment that life is very short. I was upset that I hadn't a chance to read my entire story. It was my story, and I missed it. Pay attention to this moment. It's the only moment we have. Pay attention to life. It's very short. So, the experience I was having is beyond the limits of language, but I'll do my best to explain it. Again, this is from my book. I was having what I now know was an out of body, spontaneous awakening, transcendent experience. I saw two visions going on. I saw the physical world with my naked eyes. I could see everything that was going on. I remember looking up and seeing a tin ceiling, and I was looking at that tin ceiling. But I also saw a vision that was like watching a movie inside my head, which I now know came from here, from my third eye, which sometimes I feel here and sometimes I feel it right in the middle of my forehead. The movie was an incredible, all encompassing light. It was everywhere, inside of me and outside of me. I was in it and it was in me. It took my breath away. It was so brilliant that I could not look at it full on. It was everything and nothing all at once. It was all knowing, all loving, all powerful, but not at all scary. I felt completely accepted and loved, and I felt as though I was truly home. I felt all of humanity in those vibrations, and I knew from the inside out that we are all connected. I understood the truth of being alive in a human body and all that our lives present us. On that day, I felt an unconditional, all encompassing, all knowing love. This love was so enormous that it blew apart the physical world. It melted everything. And so the physical world melted in front of me. I had that experience on a massage table while I was having a massage. My body started shaking involuntarily 6 weeks before, and then I went in to have a massage. And I remember putting my hands on the massage therapist's hands and saying, "Can you feel that?" Because everything was shaking. "Can you see that? Can you see what I'm seeing?" And of course, the massage therapist had no idea what I was talking about. When I came out of the massage therapist's office, I had to sit down for about an hour right outside in the waiting room because I was stunned. I couldn't move. And then when I finally found my feet, I walked out of the office. I went to my car and I had to sit in my car for a couple of hours because I could not figure out how to put the key in the ignition because there was no key, there was no ignition, there was no steering wheel, there was nothing. There was just this incredible light everywhere. And I couldn't, I had a hard time rejoining the physical world. Um, so a lot of the things, this is a little cartoon and it's two monks sitting there and he says, one monk says to the next, "Nothing happens next. This is it." So I was in the middle of one point, that one pointedness. And a lot of what I'm going to tell you is going to sound like hocus pocus because that's what it starts to feel like. I finally figured out how to drive home, and on my way home, I could see energy fields around all living things, and they were all different colors. I felt like I was in a Disney movie looking back on it. So I could see people that were walking down the street, and if there was love going on between them, there were big puffy pink clouds around them. If someone was having a hard time or was sick or struggling, I could see that they were all curled up and their energy fields were kind of green and brownish colored. If people were in a fight or having a hard time, I could see all the anxiety around them, and the auras around them were filled with confusion, and like a gray kind of matter. Um, I started seeing things that I never knew were existed. I could see energy fields around trees, and every single leaf had an outline around it. And it went like this, like the vibrations I was telling you about earlier. I could hold my hands up and I could see, and I can still see it, the energy, white light coming out of all of my fingertips, all around me. It was everywhere. And yeah, it was everywhere. The energy was everywhere. And it was loving energy that was guiding me. In the months following the awakening, I was seeing, hearing, and sensing all kinds of supernatural experiences at all hours of the day and night because I was stayed up for 3 months. When I looked at people, I could see their lives. This was another thing. So when I looked at people, I could see a halo around their heads. And then I could see all the things that were in the physical world. Like I could see their cars that they drove, the jobs that they had, the relationships they had, all of the things around them. And then what would happen is it would all kind of crinkle back down and evaporate into nothing. And again, the spirit world was showing me that the physical world is not real. What's real is what's out there. So all of this stuff, all the dilemmas du jour that we get caught up in, and I still do, is because I'm in a human body, they're not the important things. They evaporate just like that. They just do. They're not what's important. Um, Very often, what I saw were little things like, oh, okay, so I felt like I was intruding in their lives and I didn't know what to do with all the information that I was getting. And I called these knowings because there wasn't a shred of doubt in me. I knew now that there was a universal intelligence that brings life into every creation. I now had a direct personal relationship with my creator. That powerful presence is always accessible and available to me, and I knew things that were impossible for me to know. Sometimes because I had no normal knowledge of it or no prior knowledge of it, and sometimes because they hadn't happened yet. So, what happened next? A lot of things. I had clairvoyance. I had gained clairvoyance, clairsentience, and clairaudience, the ability to hear, see, and feel things um, before they happened. And I could, I taught myself when I was a young girl. I'll go back a little bit. I was maybe 12 years old when I had very intense back pain. And from the ages of 12 to 16, I was unable to walk or sit for long periods of time. Um, they didn't have MRI machines. They didn't have any of the scans that they have now. And my neurosurgeon wanted to wait until I was 16 and had stopped growing because he wasn't really sure what was going on in my back. So one of the things that I learned was how to leave my body at night when I was in extreme pain. And I taught myself as a little girl how to get to the roof, to the ceiling of my room. And when I was out of my body, I wasn't in any pain. So I learned at a young age that I could not only leave my body to go into to the ceiling of my room, but that I could actually get out of the house. And we live on the ocean, so I could go out and circle around the ocean and come back, and I was having a great time. But so astral projection, so that was something that I knew I could already do, and I was asked to do that for different clients. Um, I also started being able to see what I call the blue pearl. Some of you might be familiar with that. It's a little tiny, it's called the seed of consciousness. It's a tiny sesame seed that's this brilliant color blue. And I see it. Um, I've been told that it's a projection of my consciousness that comes outside of my body. But now this was back when there was no internet, there were no books, there was nothing about the blue pearl. But I knew that I saw it. And when I saw it, I knew certain things about, well, I'll give you an example of it. At this not too many years later, I started a healing practice. And here's an example of the blue pearl working in my life. A young woman came into my office, and I immediately saw the blue pearl. I usually see it over their right shoulder. And I knew she had called me. I knew she was coming to see me because she had breast cancer. She had 3 young kids. She was terrified. And I saw this blue pearl, and I said, "Oh, Lisa, you're going to be okay. Everything's all right." Like the blue pearl told me that she was going to be okay. Over the years, I've seen the blue pearl for clients. I see it more and more. And it's just a recognition that there is another level of existence that's much, much greater than anything that we have here in the physical form. Um, they say when you're fully enlightened, you see, and I didn't know this at the time, but that you see the whole world bathed in this beautiful blue light. And I spoke to one of my teachers that helped me, a Hindu psychiatrist that had helped me. And I spoke to him recently because I've been seeing the blue pearl more and more often. And he said, "Nancy, probably what will happen to you is that you'll wind up seeing the whole world bathed in this blue light." And I said, "Well, I'm not really sure I'm ready for that." And he said, "Well, you don't really have a choice, do you, Nance? You didn't have a choice the first time." So finally, let's see what else I have here. There's so much to tell you. I still have plenty of time though. Wait, am I over at 8:30?
No, well, you could be. You could continue after that for a short time.
Okay, okay. Um, One of the things that did happen to me was that I wound up I didn't know, I didn't have any language around it. So I turned on the television one day, I'm not a big TV watcher. And anyone who's had 3 little kids knows that there's really no time during the day to sit down and watch television. But I happened to flip it on for some reason. I was sitting on the edge of my bed, and a movie came on, an old movie called The Razor's Edge. And I think it was Gary Cooper in it, but I might be wrong. But he is somebody who's looking for help. And this monk or this spiritual person takes him to the top of a mountain and leaves him in this little hut. And then for the purpose of the movie, some time passes. The monk goes back up the mountain to meet the man that he had led up there. And when he gets up there, and this is how I know my creator has a good sense of humor. He gets up there, and I think it was Gary Cooper, and he said, "Are you ready to come down?" And he goes into this monologue, and he describes exactly what happened to me. He said, "I was up here, and somehow I climbed the ladder. I wound up in heaven, and something was drawing me back down to earth. And I didn't want to leave, but I knew I had to come back." And then I burst into tears, and I said, "That's my language. I finally got some language around it." So I went right to my rabbi. I talked to my rabbi, explained to him what was happening, and he was definitely a little shaken from my description. And I said, "Do you think something happened to me?" Because I wasn't sure verbally what words to use. And he said, no, 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 Nancy. And he said, I'm going to just check in with some colleagues and I'll get back to you tomorrow. So he called me the next day. I went to visit him and he said to me, Nancy, what you had was a mystical experience. And he gave me books and he told me stories that are in the Torah and the Bible about people who had had mystical experiences. And then he referred me to Dr. Reiki, who is the Hindu psychiatrist that I was telling you about earlier. And Dr. Reiki started telling me about all the Hindu traditions of how people view that the Kundalini and the Kundalini rising and what it's like from that tradition. And then I was referred to this wonderful woman here where I live, and she was an Episcopalian minister, but she had been a Catholic nun who had she had fallen in love with her Monsignor. They got married and they both became Episcopalian ministers. So then she started giving me books to read about the Christian traditions. So I was getting all of this amazing support from all of these different traditions. Um, and so getting back to the first experience with my rabbi, once he told me, gave me a few words, he said mystic. I said, okay, I had never really thought about what a mystic was. All three of them said, yes, what you had was a mystical experience. So I went to the library and I started getting books. And there weren't that many books, but I came home with a pile of books. And one of the things that sounds like hocus pocus is at that time, I could put my hands on the books and all the information in the books flew off the pages and were given to me. Where it was because I was so connected, everything was pouring through me. And it was like I was connected to all those authors. So then when I started going into different houses of worship, I could feel all the vibrations of the pain, the grief, the sadness, the tragedy, the joy, the incredible love, the patience, the kindness, the forgiveness. All of these feelings were just pouring through me, and tears of knowing, that's what we call those tears of knowing, would be streaming down my face. My body would start to shake. And a lot of things were happening all at once. um, so let's see what else I have here. The rabbi, the nun, and the minister. And there's a monk sitting up there and he's saying, and I liked some of these cartoons. The monk is saying, "Om," so he's chanting, and the cows are saying, "Hey, some holy man." That dude's got it all backwards, which I thought was kind of cute. Um, so my friend, the Reverend Minister Patricia, she asked me to come to my first, she said, I'm going to have a healing service at my church. Do you want to come? I said, yes. And I had been meeting with her weekly, and she had been giving me different books and things, stories, and wanted to know about helping me unravel some of my experiences because I kept having things that sounded like maybe I wasn't clear thinking. Um, So I went to her church, and in walks this woman, and I could immediately see that she was really, really sick. I knew that she was on her way to her towards crossing over into the next level of consciousness. And I put my hands on her, and much to my surprise, I could see inside her body. I could see her bones. I could see her organs. But most importantly, I could see this internal channel that I had spoken about, the sushumna. And I could see that it was brown and murky, and there was no life force energy in there. And I knew that she would be crossing over soon. Um, and I was very surprised that I could put my hands on people and see. So I could see things like, as time went on in my healing practice, I could see things like broken bones, cancer tumors. I could see the angel of death down at the right hand foot of anyone that was getting ready to cross over. Um, and it was the most luminous, expansive, spectacular energy field, patient, sometimes waiting there for months, sometimes for years until the person was ready to cross over. let's see. So I've worked with cancer, ALS, broken bones, surgery prep, infertility, anxiety, depression, people who are looking for their spiritual guidance. I've been teaching meditation for a really long time. Over the years, I was really worn out. I was trying to raise my three kids. And after about 10 years, I called Dr. Ricky and I said, I don't want to know these things about people. I don't want to know when they're going to die. I don't want to know about what's going on with them. And he said, oh, Nance, that's easy. You just ask for that site to be taken away. And slowly over the course of the next year or so, things were slowly taken away from me. I couldn't sustain myself at that level of vibration forever. And I remember I had three young kids that I was trying to raise. So I this is what your brain looks like before and after meditation. And you can see the before and you can see the after and how much cooler it is. And the monks again are saying, are you not thinking what I'm not thinking? So I've had the incredible privilege to work with hundreds and hundreds of people on my healing table. I've had, like I said, the incredible privilege to travel and give talks and teach meditation. And I would invite all of you to become familiar with your thoughts, remembering that the Buddha said there are as many thoughts that are coming in through a beam of light. If you see the little shreds of dust motes that come through a beam of light that's coming through the window, that's how many thoughts you have moving through your head in any given second of any given day or night. All those thoughts. So when we start to become familiar with our thoughts, we can learn how to quiet our minds and open our hearts. We can see which thoughts are helpful and which thoughts are hurtful. We can see whether they're healthy or unhealthy thoughts. And we get to start to choose our thoughts, and we get to learn how to move into the solutions of our lives instead of perseverating on our problems. I always say that prayer is asking for guidance and meditation is listening for answers. Let's see. So the healings are almost always spiritual in nature. Sometimes they're emotional, sometimes they're physically healing. But the physical healing isn't always what's right for somebody. You know, if somebody needs to move through pain, physical, emotional, spiritual pain, intellectual pain, then that's part of their path. It's part of what they need to move through. And I can't change that for anyone. But what I can do is bring people back to the place that I felt in every cell in my body. My favorite thing to do is, and every time I get to work, I get to do that. I get to bring people back to that place that I got to visit just for a little sliver of a moment. And it took me many, many years to integrate my awakening back into my life, to come back into the world. There were many, many years when I would go to the rabbi and say, you know, I really want to go home. I don't want to be here anymore. And I had these three kids looking at me. And I had a really nice life. There was nothing for me to really want to leave here. Um, and I had a loving family and a nice home, but I wanted to go home. I wanted to go home for years and years and years. And now, as I've gotten older, I know that it will come all too soon. Not too soon, it'll come at the right time. But I've spent the last 6 years taking care of my dad, who died last year on December 6th, a month before he was 97. And I got to live with him, my husband and I, and take care of him. And I got to watch him move through his death and dying process. And it was one of the most painful and also an incredibly wonderful experience for me because I absolutely adored him. Both my mom and dad had visited me in the dream state. My mom came at her 1 year anniversary. She came to see me in the dream state. And by the way, they always look so radiant. Everyone looks radiant in the dream state when they come for a visit. And I don't know how they get to see me, but how they come into my dream state, but they do. And my mother put her arms around me and whispered into my ears, and she said, Nancy, I understand everything now. So that's a little bit of my story. And
I have a question or two.
yeah, go ahead.
Um, Tell me if this is a good summary of your experience. You had an experience of connecting with God. It was a mystical experience. I think that's how you defined it. This was a personal experience of soul or soul development or soul evolution. It was personal to you. How does that fit or relate to the development or a plan for humankind?
Well, my personal feelings or knowings about that is that either we will get it straight or we won't. And if we don't, we'll disappear from our dear Mother Earth and a much higher life form will evolve here. And when we cross over, it's not like it's a booby prize, it's a great thing. But if we're not supposed to be here and we're not taking care of each other and our dear little Mother Earth and everything that's on her or in her or around her, then we as a human race will become extinct.
All right, was it part of your experience to uh, be responsible for telling your story to affect other people?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's good.
That's
Now, the
why,
next
that's
question.
why I wrote a book because,
You
but
did write the book. Tell us about the book.
wait, I had to write the book after my kids were grown up because, well, my youngest daughter, I really had to concentrate on helping them to become the best of who they could be. And to be a mother to me was all consuming and all encompassing. Their father was, my husband was traveling a lot, he was away. And I felt like that was my number one priority for being here. And then I wrote my book after they were grown up and they were kind of moving on their way. And also, I had matured enough and grown enough to be able to, it felt like coming out of the closet, because not everyone, now this group is a great group to address, but not everyone understands it. I think more people than you would expect want to know these things. They want to understand it, especially as they get closer to their life, to the end of their lives, and also if they've had catastrophes that have happened in their lives or have lost loved ones. They want to know about that stuff. And so I was doing a lot more conferences and talks, but then COVID hit, and my mother died, and then I came over and took care of my father, and that was all encompassing. So now this is the first time I've really done anything. I did do a Spiritual Awakenings International talk maybe 2 years ago, but then as my father needed me more and more, he was my number one priority.
What do you think about the future? Are you going to ask for your gifts to be uh, reactivated?
No.
You're done with that.
I don't want to do, I don't want to. It was extremely blissful and extremely overwhelming.
All right,
I
so you
don't,
don't need to do it forever. People are called to do their task and they complete it and they're free after that. I could
I don't
understand.
know about other people. I only know about myself.
Okay.
And for me, I can certainly share my experiences and my hopes and my dreams with other people. But I still work as a healer. I love working as a healer. I love teaching meditation. But if somebody comes to me and says, I'm dying of cancer, can you help me? I can help lead them to a quiet place. I can help lead them to a place where they can meet their creator and they figure out what's going on. It's not up to me. I'm not that, I'm just a regular person, just, some all mystical experiences started with somebody sitting on the side of a mountain, and all of a sudden, the whole universe unfolded inside of them. But it wasn't like I was chosen or I'm special. And the minute I start to think that it's about me and my ego gets in there, everything dissolves and disappears. It has nothing to do with me. I am simply a channel for this universe of love that we call God in this corner of the world.
I know your answer is meditation. The question is, how can people feel more closely connected to God? And your answer is meditation. Can you describe that, please?
Yes, because what happens is our minds are so busy. Like I just told you, the dust motes in a beam of light every second, continuously pounding away at us. But when we meditate, even if we meditate for 5 minutes, even if we give ourselves 10 seconds where we're not thinking and running with our thoughts, then the body can start to relax. The body will start to spread out and things will start to open up in the heart center. And there's different loving kindness meditations that you can do that do just that. They slow down your thinking, they give your brain something else to think about, which is positive loving kindness. There's lots and lots of books written about loving kindness meditations now. Anything that will slow down the brain and open the heart center, and that's where all the answers are for everybody. They're inside of us already. We have but to slow down our thinking and open our heart centers, and that's where you'll find all the answers to everything,
All
to
right.
all your questions.
I want to open the floor for questions from anyone else who is a part of our group. We have uh, Kathy and Joe and Bear on Zoom. And here in the room, we have Anthony and Kathy and Jeff and Francis. Just a moment. Let's see if anybody has any question.
I don't have questions, I have statements.
Anthony has a statement. Just let me
All
turn
right,
turn,
turn the
turn the
light on.
camera on Anthony.
Hi, Nancy. I'm Anthony. I do the website for Strangers No More, and I was wondering if we could post this Zoom meeting on our website.
Sure, of course. Let's
Okay.
spread it around.
Yeah, I was reading your description in the email Richard sent out for this meeting, and I noticed that we shared a lot of the same interests, and I felt just really motivated to ask you if we could put this on the website before even recording the meeting. So that's thing one. And thing two, I noticed is when you first started speaking, well, I used to do uh, this Chinese muscle detox, facial massage, and facial yoga. And what that would do is get rid of my allergies. I had all kinds of allergies with my eyes, my ears, my nose, and that it used, I guess the massage is a lymph drainage kind of thing. And when you first started speaking, I noticed involuntarily I was massaging my third eye like so, and you can even see where my hair separated from where I was doing it. And I feel like there's some kind of a spiritual connection with you. I feel like you have some kind of a massage spirit guide of some sort. I'm not really sure how to describe it, but it was involuntary. And the third thing I wanted to say is that I have a pretty bad foot injury. And before the meeting, I was in so much pain, I didn't even think I could sit through the meeting. And I was really worried about if I had to lay in a strange configuration because there's not really a comfortable position I could put my foot in for it to not hurt. But I noticed as we went through the meeting, I'm totally out of pain now. Uh, the bone kind of still feels messed up, but it's the first time in a couple weeks that I have not felt pain in my foot. And I just want to say again, you must have some kind of spirit of healing that is working with you. And I feel really connected with you in that area. So that's all I wanted to say, and it's really nice to meet you.
Thank you. I would suggest seeing a reflexologist.
Oh, oh, that is one more thing I wanted to say. On our website, we have a health and wellness section, and I put together reflexology charts, and we have it for the scalp, the ear, the face, the hands, and the feet.
Yeah.
So if you ever wanted to get a look at that, maybe see if you agree with it. But yeah, I'll look at our own charts. And see. You suggest I see somebody though, right?
If you know a good reflexologist, I would go see a reflexologist because it could be, usually, well, your entire body is mapped out in traditional Chinese medicine in your ears, your hands, your feet.
Mhm.
And so each part of your foot relates to a different part in your body.
Yeah, I agree.
So if you have a shoulder pain,
Sorry, the camera fell.
it's okay. So I would see a reflexologist. That's what I would do with a sore foot.
Okay.
And I'm glad it feels better.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm sure it had a lot to do with your presence.
Oh, thank you.
So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Is there any other comment or question from anyone? Joe, do you have a perspective on any energy that was present with us during our meeting?
No, I didn't see anything.
Okay. Then are we done for tonight?
I think this woman that has a map behind her, there's something that you want to ask me, I think.
Was that Kathy?
Oh, good heavens, yes. I just didn't want to take up the time because we're finishing. But it's not a question. What I wanted to say is thank you so much for describing the Kundalini rising, because I was with a person who had that experience. And it was wonderful to see you outline what was really going on, because I didn't know what was going on at the time. And I've been slowly learning afterwards. And you clarified it for me.
Oh, good. And there's a lot of information on the internet now about Kundalini rising, about chakras, about energy fields, about everything that I talked about tonight. You can find the Blue Pearl. It's all online now, which is, I think, a miracle because none of it
Very
was available for
perceptive.
me.
Yeah,
Well,
you're very perceptive.
All right. Thank you, Nancy.
you're welcome.
And thank you, Nancy.
Oh, you're welcome, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for your healing.
All right. Are we ready to say goodnight?
Yay.
Yeah.
Okay, good night.
We are blessed. Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Wow.